Hey, Lindsay here, sitting on my couch next to my Christmas tree with a gigantic pile of books next to me because I want to share some books that I have loved this year especially, but just in general. Just books that I think are great, books that make great gifts, books that are great to use gift cards that maybe someone gives you for the holidays on, or if someone's asking what can they get you and you're not sure. Here are some of my favorites. So let's start with picture books. We've got 4 kids, 3 boys and girl, and so we read a lot of picture books. We have a ton. I work in children's books now, and I worked at Diamond and Schuster before my kids were born. So we have a lot of picture books, and I think I found some really good ones that are a little off the beaten path, but just fabulous. The first is this one, Nighttime Ninja. When I read this book, I tell my kids they have to be super quiet because it's a ninja. So, spoiler, it's actually a little kid sneaking out of his room to get ice cream in the middle of the night, and his mom finds him. But it's really beautifully done. There are very few words. You got to use sound effects to make it really work. This is an excellent book, and super fun to give as a gift, like with a ninja costume. The next one, Nobody Likes a Goblin. I'm in love with this book. The author, Ben Hadka, had a really rough year this year. If you've been around the web, one of his very young daughters passed away. So consider buying this to support him and his family. I think this book is hilarious. My Henry loves it so much that his birthday party is themed around it. And just, this is not going to do it justice, but this is the most beautiful page in the book. Turns out some people don't like goblins, but some other kind of creatures really do like goblins, and there's always room for a friend. So it's super funny, and it's very sweet, and it's just, like, gorgeous. Like, it's stunning. The watercolors are so beautiful, and maybe you wouldn't expect it in a book about a goblin, but it speaks to my Henry, who loves beautiful things. He loves sunsets in particular, but he also loves goblins and like weapons and stuff. So it's a really good fit for him, and maybe it is for a little kid in your life, too. Rhyming Dust Bunnies. I love this book so much. So the story is about these 4 dust bunnies, and 3 of them rhyme. Their names are Ed, Ned, Ted, and Bob, and they rhyme all the time. And Ed, Ned, and Ted love to rhyme, but Bob, throughout the book, is trying to alert them to danger, and he's not doing it with a rhyme, so they won't listen to him. And it's super funny. I gave it to a friend at a baby shower earlier this year, and everyone was giving, like, you're supposed to bring a book, and everyone brought these sweet, I love you, Mom books, which are great. Those are fabulous. But this one threw him for a loop, and I still laugh when I read that book. I've read it a million times. Speaking of books I laugh when I read, Wolfie the Bunny. So I love this book because the story is fabulous. It's about a bunny family, and a baby wolf is left on their doorstep, and they take it in, and the mom and the dad are, like, obsessed with it. They think it's so sweet. They think it's so great. And the daughter bunny is like, we are going to be eaten. But it has a very sweet twist at the end. And it's, like, drawn as if it's in Park Slope, where we lived when we first had kids. So that's the co-op, and if you know Park Slope and you know Brooklyn, and the fact that the co-op has made it into this book is hilarious. They live in a garden apartment, just like we lived in a garden apartment, so it has kind of that special feel for us. But also, the illustrations are kind of vintagey too, and I love that. Moving on, older kids. Okay, if you know me in real life, I've already told you to read this series of books. I'm going to do it again. So The Mysterious Benedict Society this series is, like, mind-blowingly good. Intellectually beautiful. It's funny. It's smart. It's not Christian or Catholic, but there are really strong values in it. There's a lot of things that we can have conversations about. Characters that we have we read them at bedtime. There's 4, now 5 books. We have a box set of 4. And a 5th one just came out right after Jacob's birthday this year. We're waiting for the paperback to buy it because I'm kind of a purist. But we just love these books. Currently we're reading Trenton Lee Stewart's standalone novel, The Secret Keeper. And it's also fabulous. It's, like, just so, it makes you think, but, like, it's challenging and you want, like, it's not a painful kind of thinking about. It's like, kids can really dig into this. So I think my 9 and almost 7-year-old are really getting the most out of it. The littler kids, Thomas is almost 2. He keeps saying, turn, because he thinks he's going to read it. and then we put him to bed and read it on our own. But these books are fabulous. I highly recommend the box set to dig into the whole series. They're just wonderful. I can't say enough about them. I mean, this is the book that, if you saw my Instagram, Jacob's birthday party was themed around this book this year. And I'm not asking the kids to theme their birthday parties on books. They're asking me to do it. So I just love it. And I'm like, yes, by all means. The last book, and if you're looking at my blog post, you'll already see that there are Amazon affiliate links to these. If you click on these, I will make a small, and purchase something, I will make a small commission, which allows me to further my ministry, which in this case probably means buying more books and recommending them to you. But it can mean, anything from, there's a lot of things that go into the work that I'm doing right now, the writing and all this stuff that I'm up to, the podcast and everything. So however you can support it, I really appreciate that. You're also going to see an affiliate link to Blessed Is She. This year I went to the Blessed Is She conference and got Rise Up, their kids book for my kiddos. I actually gifted it to my Henry on that weekend was the canonization of Saint John Henry Cardinal Newman, who we'd been praying for his intercession basically for Henry's whole life. So Henry was super excited that he'd been canonized. I had a lot of trouble finding a thing that was Saint John Henry Newman. So we opted for this book instead, and we've been reading it together. We read a little bit of this, and then we read some of whatever Trent Lee Stewart book we're on at the time, at bedtime. And it's so well done. It has an imprimatur, which I'm probably not saying right, so I know that I can really trust everything that's in here. And there's it's beautifully done. Beautiful, right? Gorgeous. And there's just enough, it's really right at the right age. My older kids, the 7 and 9-year-old especially, are really at the right age for this book. And it's so great to talk with them about virtue and ways that they can really relate to, and kind of have them learn another way to pray that isn't, we say what we're grateful for every night. We ask God for his intercession, for his help with things. We ask for saints' intercessions. Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory Be. There's a couple other prayers we do. But this kind of, I think, is teaching them how to pray in their own words a little bit more. And so I'm super grateful for that. We love it. You can see we're halfway through it. It's a long, if you do it every day, I don't know how many weeks it is, 20 weeks, something like that? Maybe I have that wrong. Anyway, I'm sure it's in the description on the Blessed Is She site. But this is really a fabulous, fabulous book if you have a kiddo around that age. And something I think is super important to read with your kid, not just to hand to a kid, and have him or her read on their own, because we don't go into big discussions about it, but we do talk as we go through them. All right, so wait a second. Okay, so here's our giant Narnia. And you may be looking at this and thinking, okay, if I'm going to buy a book for a kid, I can't drop $60 or whatever this was originally. I don't even know how much this was. $50. But I don't think of it as a $50 book, because I bought this used online for, I think 10. I don't know, I went on eBay and found it. It has a ribbon. I'm a sucker for a ribbon. And it's beautifully done. It's got all these, the kind of, to me, classic Narnia illustrations. And it's in the chronological order of Narnia, not the order in which they're published. I know some people there's kind of a debate about in which order the book should be read. And this is the order I believe in. And so we've had this since Jacob was a month old, and we've read through it as a family once, and Jacob's read it a number of other times, because that's who he is as a human being. So those books are fabulous. A couple others. Now we're going to move on to adult books. The Catholic All-Year Compendium by Kendra Tierney. I firmly believe that every Catholic home needs this book. Whether or not you have kids, whether you're single or married, this is, can I say, the Bible and liturgical living? It explains seasons and ember days, and the way Kendra writes is so relatable. If you've been on her blog or her Instagram or seen her in any capacity online, or she also has a kid's book about confession, which is fabulous and exactly right for kids preparing for first confession. But this book is so well done. It's informative, but it's not hard to read. It's not the kind of thing you read straight through, but it is the kind of thing that you you pop in and say, okay, what day is it? What season am I in? How else could I be living that out? So highly, highly recommend. Buy it for yourself. Buy it for everyone you know. Beautiful. Also, and you've probably seen this around, this is also a beautiful book, The Theology of Home. There's something in it. There's this fabulous homemaker's litany that I have prayed with friends. I intend to get more and have them for when friends come over. I have Thursdays at Lindsay's, and local friends come over and we just hang out. And we've prayed this a couple times, but it's hard to pray a litany with just one person having it. So this beautiful gift, and the book it's so beautiful to look at. Honestly, I haven't finished reading the whole thing yet, but what I've read is awesome. It's great. It's everything. It's everything that we like. We need to bring home back. We need to honor our homes. So many of us are looking for homes. We want to be seen and known and loved. I think every single one of us wants to be seen and known and loved, and a big part of that is having a place to come home to. And so I think we need to honor that in a way. I think there's kind of this movement that the publication of this book taps into, that we're looking for that. We want that. Beautiful gift book. Beautiful book to talk about with your friends, just to have out when people come over and start a conversation. All right, so a couple of kind of memoir-y books I've read this year, both of which I could not put down. The first is Be Brave and the Scared by Mary Letterberg. If the train I was on had not come to its destination, I would have read this in one sitting. It is honest and raw and vulnerable and powerful and so full of God's grace and redemption and his power. It's there. I don't even have words. If you've seen Mary online, she's super vibrant and funny and full of joy. And when you read this, you see why. Highly recommend. I don't want to spoil it for you. Even if I told you the story, reading it would be a different thing. But it is such a testament to how God is working in our lives and can work in your life if you let him in. And Mary struggled to let him in for a while, and then she did. And wow, the stuff that happened thereafter. The next one, Jeannie Gaffigan, When Life Gives You Pears. This is the story of when Jeannie Gaffigan, Jim Gaffigan's wife, there's Jim, there's the fabulous Jeannie, realized that she had a tumor the size of a pear, I believe, on her brain stem. She speaks, she's so funny, and you read this and want to hang out with her, and you kind of feel like you are hanging out with her. She's so honest about her faith and her kids and the value of humor. I think that's in the subtitle, right? The healing power of family, faith, and funny people. I couldn't put it down. I was looking for every scrap of time that I could read through it. It's just so well done. And it's amazing too, because her experience was only in 2017. So you figure how long it takes to publish a book too. She wrote this fairly quickly after she was through the situation, but still had such perspective on the whole thing. It's really a super fun read. It would be super fun to read with a friend and talk about. If anyone else has read it, can we talk about it? Love this book. Very much recommend it. A couple for writers. A friend gave me this book for Christmas a couple years ago. It's called Why We Write, 20 Acclaimed Authors on How and Why They Do What They Do. If you're someone I think especially someone in your life who loves to write but isn't confident in calling him or herself a writer yet, there is such a broad perspective of what it means to be a writer, how you do it, why you do it, what it looks like for you. I think is really encouraging and really validating to see the diversity of how people approach writing and what it means to them. So this is a great gift book. Thanks, Alex, for giving this to me a few years ago. Loved it. Sped right through it. This is another one of my favorite books on writing. This is called This is the Story of a Happy Marriage by Ann Patchett. She wrote Bel Canto, stunning, and a number of other novels. And this is a collection. Okay, first of all, can we just talk about it has deckled edges, which is when it's not all straight on the edge. That's my favorite. And it's paperback with flaps, which is I don't know if you have a favorite trim size and format for a book, but this publishing junkie does, and this is it. It just feels so good in your hands. Look at that cover, right? Couldn't you just stare at that all day? Anyway, so Anne writes fiction, but this is a collection of nonfiction articles and essays, some of which I believe have been published elsewhere, and some that she wrote just for this collection. And reading this book really helped me see that I could be writing fiction and writing nonfiction at the same time, and maybe that was actually a good idea. Maybe it was something I should be doing. So Anne writes, she does both. She writes novels, and she also writes articles for a couple of magazines. And I loved, that was like a big turning point in my writing, I think, to see that I could do both, and it would be a good thing to do both. And her writing is just so beautiful. And also her novel, Bel Canto, is, I've read at least one other one, but Bel Canto is by far my favorite. The movie was but there's so much in the book, like the character development that she does is like beyond anything. And you can't fit that into a 2-hour movie. Okay, so now a couple of spiritual books. This one you've probably heard me talk about before. CatholicMom.com, I think I've written about it. John and I are actually in it. It's called The Daily Companion for Married Couples. I think we're in it twice, but we're definitely in it on our anniversary. Let's see if I can get to that page. And we know the author, Alan Wright, who's fabulous, and his books are also, like, please buy them all. There you go. October 3rd. There's our anniversary. So this is the whole thing for one day. This is plus it's got a ribbon. It's going to get me every time, guys. There's a short scripture verse or a line from a saint, a short reflection, and a prayer. It's a beautiful gift for someone who's just gotten engaged for a wedding. Especially, if you're going to give maybe money at a wedding as a wedding gift, but you want to kind of give them something too. This is great because it's so slim. It's so tiny. It's not going to take up a lot of space in a newlywed's apartment or house, but it's so powerful. So I read it on my own for 1 year, and I realized that as much as I prayed with John and we prayed together as a family, I wasn't praying for John nearly as much as I should be. And this really helped me change that. So super short reflections. I made it a habit to do at the end of the day. You could do it at the beginning of the day. Definitely something you could do together as a couple, which I think would be really powerful. But sweet little book. I don't know. I think it's less than $10, at least on Amazon. I think it is. So that's a great one too. Great for a stocking. Look at how that would fit in a stocking. And Alan has a bunch of other ones. He recently published one with lines from St. John Henry Newman. So hopefully that one's going to end up in our house pretty soon. There's one for caregivers. He has a bunch of these, like day by day. I think there's one for young people. I don't even know. He's done a bunch of them. So please look into these. I believe it's by Catholic Book Publishing, the Catholic Book Publishing Corporation. And these are really great. They're just great books, and they're great to have around. A really great boon to your prayer life. This book, I got 2 more. This is called Raising Catholic Kids for Their Vocations, and it's by a married couple who are totally qualified to write this book. Oh my gosh, I wish they could come over to dinner and just tell us how to do all the things. But this is a really awesome kind of how-to, but not in a way that makes you feel like you're doing anything wrong. It's really encouraging. It's really accessible. My favorite part is that there's one section where their children wrote about what growing up helped them stay closest to their faith. So I thought that was really cool because you don't know, right? You hope you're doing the right thing, and you pray and you discern as best you can, but to hear it from their kids is really cool. So this is about raising kids for their vocation, whatever it might be, married life, religious life, but having those kind of in mind as we're parenting and to guide us and to help us make some decisions. And I think that's a really fabulous perspective and something that is really powerful. The last, I don't have, this is the only one I have with me, but the other ones are, I have a list still behind me on my computer that I got from the library. This is called On the Edge of Infinity, a biography of Michael D. O'Brien. I didn't really know who Michael O'Brien was, maybe because he's Canadian, I don't know, until John and I went to the Sisters of Life Gala this year, and he was being honored with, I think, a Lifetime Achievement Award. And so John knew the organizers who were like a table away from this guy. And right before that, I had the opportunity to read this book and review it. I didn't get to read it before we saw him, but to hear him speak and to hear him read from his work and then to read this story of his life. He's still alive, obviously. He was in April. I'm fairly certain he is now too. This is such an amazing story of his life as an artist, as a man of faith, as a father, as a writer, an editor, a publisher, an artist. He paints icons. He is such an amazing creative soul, and has had has wrestled with some forces and had visions and such a compelling, a biography of someone I didn't really know, someone I hadn't read before. Would that really be compelling? But oh my gosh, this is an excellent book. It's such a great read. Okay, so 3 more that I don't have in hand because I got them from the library and I read them in record time. The first is called Together, the memoir of a marriage and a medical mishap. And it is the story of a Jewish couple who, she's Jewish, he is too. What do you think about that? Their faith doesn't come into the story a whole lot. There are certain points. But the husband went in for a procedure that didn't go as it was supposed to. And it really changed his life and it changed their lives because of what he was capable of doing thereafter and what the recovery looked like and how do you deal with the blame and forgiveness and how do you move on and how does your life change and all these things. And it's so, is one author, stunning author, Judy Goldman, I think, who I hadn't read before, but man, do I want to read more of her writing now. Just beautiful lyrical writing. And the chapters alternate between the present and their courtship and how they met and how their early married life. And it's just, oh my gosh, it makes you believe in love. It's just such a wonderful story. The next is The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hell by Robert Dugoni. This book, you might know that author's name. This book is not his typical genre, but it's so good. My mom had read it. I think Verily recommended it. I think then Kate Wicker recommended it online too, if I'm not mistaken. I saw it. It's that kind of book that showed up in a couple of different places, all from very trusted sources, and I knew I had to read it. I'd wanted to read it for a while, but I knew it was finally time to request it from the library. And again, I could finding the pockets of time to read it because it's a novel and it is just so good. It's the story of this boy who has red eyes, and what that does in his life. And his mom is a very faithful Catholic, and he falls away from it. And how does she have an influence on his life? And how does even the Catholic community respond to him being different in the time and place that he is? Just a great story. And I read it and just wish that this author would write more in this kind of genre because it's just so good. It's just so much fun to read, and so well done. Dialogue was great. Great book. And the last one is The Printed Letter Bookshop by Catherine Reay. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Reay. I'll link to it. She's written a bunch of books. A lot of them kind of hinge on classic literature. The first one I read was called Lizzie and Jane. So, it's Pride and Prejudice, but in Seattle with food. Lizzie and Jane is fabulous. Actually, I have that on the shelf, but this is getting to be a long video, so I'll stop. She's a fabulous writer. The Printed Letter Bookshop is about a bookshop, as you might guess. And the owner has passed away. And now there are the 2 women who work there, but there's also the niece to whom the bookshop has been left. And they don't all see eye to eye at the beginning. And they all have things they need to work through, and maybe ways that you didn't quite expect. And it's a beautiful story of a small town and a community and love and forgiveness and hope and renewal. And it's just fabulous. An excellent read. All her books are good, but this was definitely one of my favorites. And I think she has another coming out in May. So look forward to it. Her Instagram is super fun too. The last thing I wanted to mention, and I don't have it with me, but if you're looking for a gift to give or something to ask for or something to just treat yourself with, Ever Eden is a literary journal that's been out for about a year now, and it is such a joy. I've had a couple of stories published in it. I have some new work coming out with them in 2020, and I actually got to edit some of, just proofread, copy edit, the winter issue. And so it's a quarterly literary journal written exclusively by Catholic women, but of course anybody can read it. The stories are informed by the Catholic faith, but they're not like hit you over the head Christian Catholic-y stories. They're just real stories written by people who are Catholic and who are writers. So there's creative nonfiction, short stories, some reflections, and some poetry. And some beautiful, like, original artwork on each cover by a different artist each time, some hand-lettered pages throughout. It's beautiful in its form and visually, and also in its content. It's really a lovely way to tap into the voices of women and acknowledge our dignity and our creative power and the beauty that there is in the written word. So I think for a while, depending on when you're watching this, Evereden is doing a gift subscription that will not renew, so a kind of an easier way to give it as a gift. But it's a great thing, and I think as it grows, it would be great to see more and more support of it. If you listen to my podcast, you heard Amy O'Connell on it a few weeks ago, and we talked about a quote from Edith Stein. And if you listen to that, you could hear her passion and her joy and the recognition that she has of what we have to offer as women and how that's important to give our voices a space. So I hope you enjoyed this. I had a great time doing it. I could talk books all day, but hopefully you will find some great books for you and your loved ones. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.